What's up, everyone out there in YouTube world, Facebook world, social media world, the world? Welcome to Musings with MGL. I'm your host, as always, MGL. Going to get right into it today because I'm pissed off about something. I'm a little angry about something. And so I'm going to bring it here to the interwebs. And people can agree with me or disagree with me, but this is where it is. So this is about Jordan Neely. If you don't know, Jordan Neely is the guy, the Marine, who was videotaped about a week ago or so, putting a submission hold. I'm not going to call it a choke hold, a submission hold on the crazy whacked out guy that was on the subway, threatening passengers, et cetera, et cetera. It's been all over the news. Everybody's been showing the video. There's been protests, crazy things going on in New York City. Protests, people standing on subways. Of course, the idiots of the world, AOCs, et cetera, are out there claiming that it's racism and it was a lynching and a murder and all this other kind of stuff. So I haven't said anything about it yet because I was kind of waiting to see where things kind of laid out. But since I am the lawyer and I look at things from a legal standpoint, and I think this is going to tie into Second Amendment stuff too, which is my main purpose here, obviously, it's time for me to weigh in on this. So here's what's going on. In case you haven't heard, it's kind of breaking news, but they've charged him. They're going to arrest him, and they're going to charge him with murder, second-degree manslaughter, second-degree murder, whatever they call it in New York. They're going to charge him with killing this man. I'm going to do a quick rundown of the news just to get you caught up to speed, and then I'll give you my take. This is from the BBC. I know it's technically Europe, but it's kind of the most unbiased article I could find that just kind of gives out some of the facts. There's a little bit of bias in here, but a former U.S. Marine who placed a homeless man in a fatal chokehold, submission hold, on the New York subway is expected to be charged with manslaughter. Daniel Penny, 24, will be arrested on Friday and accused of causing the death of 30-year-old Jordan Neely in a train carriage on May 1st. I love how BBC, British people, train carriage, that's called a subway. His lawyers say he could not have known his actions to subdue McNeely would lead to his death. Mr. Neely was pinned to the ground and put in a chokehold for several minutes. He had been shouting at other subway passengers and asking for money, witnesses said, but there's no indication he had physically attacked anyone. You don't have to physically attack someone. You don't have to wait until somebody's physically attacked in order to protect yourself or protect others. Somebody threatening to physically attack you, saying that they're going to physically attack you, threatening that they're going to physically attack others. There's all kinds of statements, witnesses saying that he was saying crazy things like, I'm prepared to die, you're prepared to die. You don't actually have to wait until somebody physically attacks somebody. Like, you don't have to sit there and be punched before you can defend yourself. The incident was filmed by bystanders and sparked protests across New York. A video captured by a freelance journalist on the train shows the former Marine holding Mr. Neely around the neck for 2 minutes and 55 seconds. He was later found unconscious in the carriage and taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead. His death resulted from compression of the neck, the city medical examiner ruled. Mr. Penny told other riders to call the police. Oh, if you're trying to murder somebody, this is usually rule number one. If you're trying to murder somebody, you don't tell other people to call the police. Like, to me, as a defense attorney and even as a common sense person, rule number one is when you're in the mix of actually murdering somebody, you don't tell other people to call the cops. But whatever. He was questioned by police and released on the day of the incident. But on Thursday, prosecutors said they would bring criminal charges against him. We can confirm that Daniel Penny will be arrested on a charge of manslaughter in the second degree, a spokesperson for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office said in a statement. We cannot provide any additional information until he has been arraigned in Manhattan. It's not clear whether charges will be brought against two other unidentified people who were also seen restraining Mr. Neely. In a statement earlier this month, lawyers for Mr. Penny expressed condolences to the Neely family and said Mr. Penny and other passengers acted in self-defense. They said Mr. Neely's behavior was the apparent result of ongoing and untreated mental illness, which prompted Mr. Penny and others to protect themselves until help arrived. A witness to the altercation said Mr. Neely was shouting about being hungry and thirsty. Police sources told news that Mr. Neely was allegedly acting erratically. In a statement earlier this week, Mr. Neely's family said that Mr. Penny needed to be in prison. The family wants to know that Jordan's life matters. So that's the gist of the facts that's going on. Basically, he is going to be arrested today. Now, here's a couple different things with this. Remember, this is the same district attorney's office that recently brought charges against Donald Trump. Same guy, Adam Bragg, who's the elected district attorney in New York. This is the man who everybody knows doesn't care about murders on subways, doesn't care about homeless people, doesn't care about crime in his city, unless it is particular political crimes that he cares about. So obviously with Trump, it was a political crime. They went after Trump for strictly political reasons. Everybody's known that. I did a video on that already. This is also a political witch hunt crime. It's a political charge. Here's the telling reasons why. They didn't go to a grand jury on this case. So they have the option in New York to take a case in front of a grand jury, which is what they did in Trump, and let the citizens of the city make a decision. And in that grand jury, the defense has a right to bring in some witnesses to try and argue to the grand jury that a charge shouldn't be filed. In this particular case, they decided to forego that process, and he just directly filed on him. He alone, Adam Bragg, decided to arrest this person. He didn't go to a grand jury. Now, I'm not saying they wouldn't have gotten an indictment from a grand jury, especially one in New York City, but he didn't even bother to give that option. He made the sole decision to charge this guy, which means it's clear that it's political, because most district attorneys, state attorneys, whatever, in a situation like this would put it in front of the grand jury and let them make a decision, because then they usually get at least plausible deniability, because they come out if he's not charged and say, hey, blame the grand jury. If he is charged, then the people who are supporting the individual can say, hey, blame the grand jury. But he didn't do that. He took sole ownership of this charge, which makes it clear that it's political. It's clearly political because of all the political stuff that's going on with it. When you have sitting members of Congress saying that this was a lynching, a public lynching, and that he should be arrested and thrown in prison, and his video all over the place, this is talk on all the talk radios and the CNNs of the world. Of course he's going to file charges in this case because he's a political animal. He's elected by the citizens of New York City, and most of the people who live in New York City are crazy lefties who probably think this man should have been arrested. So this is clearly a political arrest, and it's quite frankly bullshit. It's insane. I don't think there's any doubt here that this was a self-defense situation. All the evidence as we know it today, obviously you have to give a caveat of saying I'm not in the trial, I don't know all the witnesses, I don't know all the evidence, but just from what we know about this case, this is not a murder charge. It's not a manslaughter charge. This is self-defense. You had a man on the subway who was harassing and threatening other people. They didn't put all the facts in this particular article, but there's other articles out there where you can find that he wasn't just asking for food because he was thirsty, okay? He wasn't doing a freaking dance on the subway to Michael Jackson, as everybody wants you to believe what he was doing. This was a man with a history of violence on the subway, a history of intimidating and threatening people on the subway. He's on the subway. He's continuing to do those things. This man stepped up and decided to put a submission hold on him, something that they teach you, I would assume, in the military. He is a Marine. It's probably something they teach in the military. It's something you see in things like MMA and UFC. It's a submission hold intended to knock the person out. It's not a choke hold where you crush their windpipe or whatever. Basically block the carotid artery until the person passes out. Then after they pass out, you put them in their recovery position where you lean them over on their side so they can get more air, which is exactly what happened here. When you look at the actions of the individual in this case, the Marine, he put the hold on him long enough to make him pass out. While he was doing that, he was telling people to call the police. He was being assisted by other people on the train. Nobody was like, oh my God, you're killing him. Everybody was like, oh yeah, we can assist you. I've read reports that people were clapping when it happened on the train. He was telling people to call police. Immediately upon the guy passing out, he rolled him over onto his side, put him in the recovery position so he would get some more breath, and then he waited on the subway for the police to arrive, fully cooperated with the police, and gave a statement. Those are not the actions of a murderer. Now, you could try and argue that manslaughter doesn't require your intent to kill somebody. That's why you have first-degree murder where there's intent, you have second-degree murder where there's like reckless endangerment, and then you have manslaughter where your behavior was likely to cause death, things of that nature. So they're not charging with first degree like premeditated murder like the AOCs of the world probably think he should be charged with. They're charging him with manslaughter, which basically means you take actions that you know are likely to lead to somebody's death. There's no indication here that he took actions believing that this man would die. It was a chokehold that I would imagine, or a submission hold that I would imagine was taught to him. It's a submission hold that people do all over the place, and people don't die from it. And as soon as the guy went unconscious, he turned him over and put him in a recovery mode, which indicates that he didn't think that the guy was going to die from it. Otherwise, he would have been giving him CPR or something crazy. So this case is crap. It's clearly political, and it's more of an indication of why I did a video on this earlier as well, our major cities are a disaster. They're just a disaster. So in New York City, not only are you allowed to be a victim of a crime, but if you actually try not to be a victim of a crime, and if you actually try and prevent other people from being victims of crime, not only will you still be a victim, but you're now going to be the criminal. You're going to be the one who's charged. And we hear these stories all the time about people getting raped on subways, or people getting beat up in the street, or people getting harassed or in trouble, and nobody steps up to help them. You know, you hear this all the time. How come the men aren't stepping in? Why are people just videotaping on their cameras? Why aren't they getting in there to help people? Well, this is why people aren't getting in there to help people. Because if you do insert yourself into a situation and try and help people, you're just as likely, and in a city like New York or Chicago or LA, you are more than likely to end up going from the hero to the villain in seconds. It's going to happen. So this is why people aren't going to step up and fill this void. Law enforcement are no longer filling this void because of all the defund the police nonsense. Citizens are now not going to fill this void because look what could happen to you if you do it. So these cities are just going to burn in chaos. Why is this important for Second Amendment or concealed carriers? Because I'm always telling people think the same thing. Well, if I hear a shooting, should I go toward and try and help out, or should I leave, or what are my rights when it comes to defending other people and things of that nature? And I always tell people, look, you still could get in trouble and still get charged. You may think that you're doing the right thing by protecting other people or pulling your gun because you think you need it to happen. But even if you try and do the right thing and try and be the hero, you could still end up being charged. I'm certainly not telling anybody not to be a hero, but you need to think, and as sad as it is, you need to think before you take action about whether you want to be a hero or not, because by being a hero, you may end up turning yourself into a criminal. So people who live in these cities, if you are a good law-abiding citizen, you need to leave these cities. Go somewhere else. Florida's full. If you want to come, we'll figure it out, but we're pretty full. Go to Georgia. Go to Arizona. Go to these purple states where they need more law-abiding, good citizens to move to, and let these other big cities and these blue states just die in their progressive criminal nonsense. Go to New York City, harass people on a train, you're going to be fine. Go to New York City and protect people who are being harassed on a train, you're going to get charged with murder. So this is horse crap. Just wanted to give my 2 cents on it. Hopefully the guy, gets found not guilty. I have no faith in a New York jury system here. I am afraid that this man is going to be charged. He's probably going to go to trial, and he's probably going to be convicted only because it's New York. This isn't Kyle Rittenhouse in Wisconsin. I think you have a more regular jury in a place like that. I think if the Kyle Rittenhouse case took place in New York City, he's convicted and sitting in prison for the rest of his life all day long. And I'm afraid that might be what happens to this hero Marine who was just trying to do his job by protecting American citizens like he was trained to do. So if you have a comment on it, feel free to comment below. Please like, share, subscribe. Still trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm inching closer every day. So thanks for watching. And I'll see you next time. So in the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, stay vigilant, and as always, carry on.